Okay.
They'll probably do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody ready? All right, before we get started, I'd like everybody to stand for a moment of silence for George Floyd and his family. Thank you. Okay, before we get started, I'd like to emphasize that everyone to speak slowly and bring those microphones as close to you as you possibly can. You might have to scoot that forward. Most of them look okay. All right, we'll go right into our committee meetings. First up is Parks and Mr. Hyde.
Okay, I'd like to bring to order the City Property Parks and Recreation. It is June 8th, 2020, 6 p.m. Here in the Active Adult Center. All members of the committee are present, as well as the rest of the council. Good to see you all. And those noted on my list. We have no new requests for legislation. We do have current legislation, ordinance number 63, 2020, memorandum of understanding regarding the cemetery over by the old Portage, which is now Christian Healthcare Ministries. Does anybody have any comments on that? Hearing none on that. Moving on to appointments, we will be voting on the appointment of Michael Tompkins effective immediately through December 31st, 2021 for the opening in the Parks and Recreation Committee, or Commission, excuse me. Do we have any comments on that? Again, hearing none, do I have a motion for this appointment?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Moved by Mrs. Coburn, seconded by Mr. Jaber. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And miscellaneous discussion. Let's see. Would be Lisa here? Lisa, do you want to give anything for miscellaneous discussion there? Besides what you gave me?
Oh, so Wednesday at 10 o'clock, we're having a in your car parade for our seniors who we haven't seen in 3 months. So they haven't seen the graphics on the building. So they're going to come to the Y parking lot in their vehicles. We're going to decorate a couple of our vehicles with a dinosaur outfit that one of our staff is going to wear. And it's just a day to wave and say, how you doing? And then we're gonna give them a bag of goodies to take home with them. So a way to get our seniors out of their homes and drive through, and they'll stay in their cars. And then I gave you the figures for the giveaways that we're currently doing in the parks through week 2, if you wanna report those.
Through those weeks there at the 5 city parks, the department's given 1,105 lunches, 225 birdie bags, which are shelf-stable goods, and 200 magic boxes. And that still continues through Monday, August 10th. Does anybody have any other miscellaneous discussion?
Yes, any more information about the parts for the basketball courts? Anything?
I spoke to the director. The state has given certain orders, but not protocols involving how often we have to sanitize playground equipment, what protocols have to be with basketball courts. I can tell you just from my business in the restaurant, they like to tell you can open and then tell you later what you have to do. So we're still waiting on the state to tell us how we have to take care of it when we reopen.
Thank you.
Just as an example, the high school, OHSAA, and basketball and football at the school, students cannot share the ball. So for football, you have to bring your own football. And for basketball, you have to bring your own basketball, and you can't pass your basketball to another basketball player right now. So I would just imagine if that's the rule for high school basketball, they're probably not going to allow a city to put a basketball hoop back up at this time. But of course, that's the rule on June 8th at 6:09 p.m. Hard to tell what the rule may be in 2 weeks, but right now, I know this because of the school, but you're not allowed to, you have to bring your own basketball to basketball practice, you're not allowed to pass the basketball.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
unnerving, but okay, thank you very much.
It has to dribble it, practice.
I have one for the director there. How is the Vets Ditch coming over there at the foundation fields? Only because the Silver League is looking at, they're meeting tonight and looking at trying to make another move to come back to Barberton. They recently moved to Kent State, and Kent State has closed their fields for the remainder of the season. I just wanted to know, they were concerned about any construction going on up there, so are we on schedule? Is it future looking brighter, done soon?
So they're still working over there. I knew that their fields had been canceled at 10. They've not contacted me about, the Silver League has not contacted us.
No, they're meeting tonight to whether they even want to continue with the league. And if
Oh, I
they do,
see.
then they want to see,
Okay.
then they're gonna see about possibly reaching back out to Barberton. Anything else from anybody? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion adjourned.
Thank you,
I'll second.
thank you. We are adjourned at 6:12.
Thank you very much. Next up is safety, and Mrs. DeBevitt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring to order the Public Welfare and Safety Committee meeting. It's 6:11 on Monday, June 8th, in the Active Adults Center. All members of the committee are present, as well as all council members and all others noted. We have one new request for legislation this evening, and it's a draft ordinance titled Disposal of Vehicles, authorizing the police chief to scrap, salvage 14 vehicles deemed to be no longer needed for any municipal purpose and unfit and unsafe for disposal in any other manner. Does anyone have any questions about this piece of legislation? Do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Greer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Griffin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it passes. We also have two pieces of legislation that we will be voting on this evening from safety. The first one is ordinance number 60/2020 titled Mower Trade-In. And this is a piece of legislation allowing the trade-in of the old lawnmower for a new lawnmower at GSA Equipment located in Barberton for the fire department. The current mower requires replacement due to safety concerns with its steering and general operation, which have resulted in several accidents. Does anyone have any questions about this piece of legislation that we will be voting on? Okay, and the last piece of legislation that we will be voting on this evening from safety is ordinance number 61, 2020, and it's titled Enter into Contract with Tenable Protective Services, Inc. And this is to continue the contract that we've had for several years with Tenable for our security. And I believe when we met 2 weeks ago, I asked if we were paying during the pandemic, and the mayor did respond to all of us that evening, and so I wanted to make sure everybody saw that we indeed have not had to pay during this. So, does anybody have any questions about that piece of legislation? Okay. Does anybody have any miscellaneous discussion for safety?
Yes, I do, Mr. Better. I've been getting a lot of calls from, three for sure, from Austin Estates area. And there's been several accidents. There's one this year at Walter and Robinson. And we're getting a lot of speeders on north of Azalea. And I know this lady does a 728. She has a couple kids. And her sister lives across the street, and they play in the driveways, but she's worried about the kids running back over to their aunt's house, without warning. And we also have speeders on Lockwood, coming down that hill, Lockwood, and I think that's Heatherwood goes out. It's up there, Hillwood, it's the second street up from Shenandoah, whatever that is up there. In between there, they're just speeding. So I wonder if we could get the sign up there somewhere at the beginning. Any chance of that, Chief?
The sign's broke right now, we're trying to get,
Is it broke?
it's old. We had to replace it last year and this year, parts of it.
Right. Because I know the lady said.
We're around right now with,
So I'll just forward it over to her and tell her, because she's mentioned a sign, and she said I could put it in her yard, but anyway,
I'll pass it on to Lieutenant Blake,
okay.
patrol function.
Well, one of the
Try to get
problems,
some people up there, we're starting to issue tickets again.
okay, that'll be good. I told her maybe, you can have a more presence up there sometime.
Right, it's busy.
I know, you're
But,
busy.
but we can't.
I know. I was trying to explain it to her. She's very patient, and, but she's just worried about, there's people that, the older people die, and you got people that moved in. And she even brought it to the attention of a young kid that was speeding, and she talked to him. So now he doesn't speed, he just goes by our house and raises the motor all the time. So, it's like,
It was working on Second Street, we had it down there, we moved it out to Taylor,
okay.
we couldn't pull the old stuff off. The stuff from Second, it's still there somewhere, but we need to, it's a software issue.
Chief, wasn't it just on Summit?
It was on Summit, yeah, we have a whole list, and it was on Summit, it was on Summit.
Was it working on Summit when it was on Summit?
Mhm.
I was just curious.
We've been up on Summit though about every year, and statistically, it's not an issue, but we still go up there,
Yeah.
We have all the old records if anybody wants to see their.
No.
The different ones, but, so we moved out to Taylor because we had problems on Taylor, complaints with Taylor.
Right.
So we try to follow up then with enforcement after that, generally a week period or so. That's where it's at now.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we can get it fixed by the next time.
Anybody else have anything for safety? Yes, sir.
Thanks, Chair. This is to tap on Mr. Griffin's speeding thing. I kind of looked at different ideas. Given the experience that council has and our law enforcement and safety, what other techniques can we use possibly for slowing people down? I know we use the sign, we do enforcement for the tickets. Is that all we do? Have we explored possibilities of, I don't know, other options? What tools do we have at our disposal?
If you want another tool, generally, if you don't get voluntary complaints, you either gotta, scream at them, a la the sign, or give them a negative reinforcement with a ticket. So, beyond that, there's really no, there's always automatic, you can do the Norton thing. With civil violations and tickets to red lights and stuff like that. There's home rule issues with that, some different things going on state legislature. But generally, though, I will tell you, in your neighborhoods, it's your neighbors who are speeding. So, on Lockwood, a lot of times, we get them on Azalea a lot.
Right.
Some of our officers live up there, and they're there, they see it, they know, they'll go on and say, hey, can you please slow down, every morning. So-and-so's running late, and they're flying down Azalea, coming up to, Shenandoah, and roll the stop sign or go through, so. Those are, some neighborhood issues, talk to them, identify who they are, generally. We'll go up and knock too, and say, hey man, let's talk, I know it's a cool car, but you're not driving like crazy as you go on the road, be respectful.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, that's where we're at on it.
Chief, I'm sorry, speed bumps, we thought speed bumps on roads?
I do not know the legality of speed bumps on public streets. I do believe there's probably something in the Uniform Traffic Code manual that would prohibit that as a total safety function. I don't know that. That would actually be a street department or safety director type issue, but that uniform traffic, you guys looked at that thing? It's massive. I mean, it's pretty good. You almost need somebody to help you with it, but it governs what you can and can't do in the street, where you can put stop signs, where you can put, traffic signals. And so I don't know how speed bumps are covered. I know, I've seen them in some other communities where all the neighbors signed off on in, like in Austin Villas type of area. That isn't a permissive street or heavily traveled or, like an actual city street. It isn't a thoroughfare or something like that. So, yeah, that one is a little above off my level.
Thank you.
Chief?
Yep.
A couple things. We do have those in Tusk Park area, correct? Is that the speed bumps?
Mm-hmm.
Is that because
I believe you could do that because it's a park.
it's a park?
Technically
Okay.
still,
And
that street, even, it's a park still,
Right.
It's both a street and a park.
Right. And then I just wanted to make one comment. I don't know what the, if we are having a problem speeding, and I know I've received some calls as well from that same area that you're discussing. And I did tell them that I saw the speed trailer out, that's why it was on Summit. I do think that that's really an effective way. I know, even for myself, when it was on the bridge, we set me on 131, and then next thing you know, now I only go 25 over it for eternity.
Yeah, I
So
think it's a good route.
I think it's an effective tool. Anybody else have anything?
Well, somebody made a homemade sign, 25 miles an hour, and put it out, so I don't know.
Well, it's just something about that light blinking at you like you broke the law. I don't know, for me. Yes.
I do have one comment, and I can piggyback on Mr. Griffin, that they come down Walter on Austin, in Austin States, zip across Robinson Avenue, come up to Walter and forward, and there's a stop sign right there. I can stand there and I can count 20 cars out of 21 that do not stop at that stop sign, and they fly up forward to 9th Street and don't stop at that stop sign and go out. And we did have the smart machine out there. It's been a while, but I think it was right after it was repaired, we had it up there, and it did slow the people down. But I'd like an officer, right there, because we've had, cars that hit that catch basin and end up in somebody's yard and that type of thing. So it's, because they're sitting there at the four-way stop, and by the time they get through, they're just zipping right up to 9th Street, so it is a problem.
And they'll also use 8th Street as a bypass.
Yes,
They'll
they
use
do.
8th instead of Walter.
Yes, now Eighth Street's getting very
8th
difficult to
Street
get out.
is pretty.
Well, luckily, a lot of my neighbors park their cars out in the street now where it never did before, so it kind of slows the traffic down a little bit.
One thing I would say, add just finally too, that we always do is we look at the complaint and then we look at the accidents that have happened. What have we have in that area? And sometimes the perception, the reality, somebody's gonna die, I mean, the kid's gonna die. Well, please keep your kids off the street. I know it's not always possible, but it's, sometimes when we tell people, look, last 3 years, we've had one accident, it was over here, it wasn't that bad, I mean, it was a drunk who sideswiped the car, and they're like, oh, really? They just, so we try to, base it, look at the big picture on the whole thing too. So our Worcester Road is our worst, thoroughfare, obviously, it's the most traveled. Where we do try to, a lot of discretionary time up there, we do get some serious speeds up there.
Anyone else have anything? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Mr. Griffin,
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
second by Mr. Greer. We are adjourned at 6:25.
Next up is streets with Mr. Greer.
All right, I would like to bring to order Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting Committee. Today is June 8th, 2020. It is 6:25.
Record.
We'll start this over here. All right, try this again. I'd like to bring to order Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting Committee. It is June 8th, 2020. It is 6:25 at the Active Adult Center. All members of the committee are present and guests noted. We have no requests for legislation today, and I do have 2 miscellaneous discussion topics. First one, I don't see Mr. Tracy here, but I don't know if you guys been around town, but I believe it's ARL is doing road striping and bringing up some of the road striping around town. I had inquired about the road striping on Worcester Road, 2nd Street. And that's kind of a complicated process because that belongs to another project that we're doing. So we do have road striping going on around town now. The second item is the gas line project that held up the 5th Street project has now moved forward. The gas company is out there replacing the gas line. They're right around the Lincoln Avenue and Van Buren area. And that is part of the larger project for the sewer project, which is going to lead us into the 5th Street project, the resurfacing of the 5th Street project, hopefully later this year. And that's all I have for miscellaneous discussion. Any committee members have anything? All right. Is there anything from council? I do have one more thing. If we could, as council people, I know we all do anyways, but really advocate and push for the online system to submit these road issues, potholes, anything from overgrown grass right away stuff. I know I submit a handful usually every week myself. I also try to encourage anybody I talk to that complains about something that they do it as well, just to get them in the habit because again, our workforce is down and the system works. It works. And I think we need to push it a little bit more and get a lot more people to use it. So is there anything from, yes? Ms. Better?
I'm thinking, Chair, I'm not necessarily sure that this falls under streets, but you mentioned something, and I guess it would because we have a street department. Are we back at full staff or are we still at half staff? And when will we be resuming if we are at half staff?
So I know what I've been told, and this was 2 weeks ago, we were only at 50%. Someone over here, Mr. Flaker, was nodding yes, that we are back at full staff.
Monday,
Monday.
Monday, we were
Okay.
full staff. Monday.
So,
Okay, thank you. So today, correct?
June
Last
8th.
Monday.
Last Monday.
Last,
oh,
Okay.
June 1st.
Okay, thank you.
all right. Any other questions, remarks? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mrs. Angeloff.
And I'll second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Fry, and we are adjourned at 6:28.
Next up is rules of Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules, marketing, and development. I would like to call this meeting to order today, June 8th, 2020. We are meeting in the Active Adult Center. All members are present and all are here noted. Tonight, we have no request for legislation, and we're open for miscellaneous discussion. Do you have any discussions for rules?
Yes, sir. I've had a couple residents call in regards to campers and boats in front yards and driveways. And I emailed the service director, so emailed the law director, so I apologize. And they are going to knock on doors to see if they get those moved out. I was wondering maybe we can change some of the rules, maybe in the summertime, where we'll be allowed to allow them to park their boats in the driveways or the campers. There's a lot of residents who do camping on the weekend, or boating on the weekend, or during the week. And they have no places to park their camping vehicles or boats. Has anybody had complaints or calls on
I've had complaints on boats and RVs, and I have always had to move because they have to be on a paved, hard surface. And a lot of times, these people, they would park them and stay out of them on grass or dirt. And I always was told that it had to be, you couldn't live in it, and it had to be on a hard surface for boats, because they took advantage of it. They would leave them there for months. So I don't know, it would be something.
I was under the impression, I don't know, maybe someone can, clear this up for me, that, you can't park any of them, even on a hard surface in your drive.
Has to be covered, I believe.
That's what I thought.
So no driveway, no grass, no front yard?
That's
No.
what I,
no.
Uh-uh.
So for example, you can park it, if it's behind, I'm not gonna get the rule completely correct. But yes, it has to be a hard surface, but it has to be, I don't know the rules certainly, but it has to be behind. So I know for certain that there is a home where they've created a pad and the camper is behind their home. It's behind it, it's not in the front, it's not obstructing anyone's views to see the streets, it's not, so it's behind, but it's on a concrete pad. So it does have to be on a solid surface. But it can be there, but it has to be.
so basically it can't be in your driveway.
It can't be visible from the front of the property.
It could be a driveway if the driveway went behind the house, for example.
So like if you were off an alley.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, I could show you the house I'm talking about.
Okay.
Mrs. Miller, do they have to be current license too? Just like cars, do they don't have to be? I think boats are every 3 years and trailers are one.
Well, they have to be, everything has to be properly licensed. If it's not properly licensed, then that's another issue.
Right.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have anything else? Rules?
Anything on the rules for the downtown closure, Mrs. Miller? Anything new, has anything been brought up, like trying to get the new liquor license or temporary liquor license?
I have not had anyone contact me about that.
Has anybody else been speed up for anything?
Are you talking about the open refreshment area?
Yes.
That, I just from reading the ORC and all that, and Ms. Miller can correct me if I'm wrong, but that comes from the mayor's office to fill out, to present an application with all these checks of sanitation, securities, all that, and then present it to the council.
As, you know, if the mayor has known this yet, or started that process?
That I can't answer, I just know from reading what the process starts and what it entails.
I just noticed Cleveland's passed it recently too, in front of council. Let's see if we're up to date, or if we're still going with this, or.
I thought that Cleveland already had designated areas. So for example, that one street that Lola's on, that Fourth Street, that's certainly one of those areas. No, is it up there?
I can tell you this one just from knowing the things up in Cleveland there. They have certain entertainment districts and they fall under certain different rules because of the size of their city. Those were pretty much showcased during the RNC when it was up there, that they were even able to extend their liquor licenses to 4 a.m. in certain regions of the city there. So they do have, it's not exactly fair, but some places do have a different set of rules from the state than others. I know Hamilton County has a whole different set of liquor laws that they get that nobody else in the state gets.
Mr. Griffin, since we're on the rules committee, Chairman, can you really, you can start following up on that list? The mayor, the process.
Contact with the mayor and you can follow up.
Yes, please.
That's what I can do that.
I'd like to business on downtown asking about it.
Okay,
Can I follow up with that and get more information if we can?
I will.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any more miscellaneous discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second, that's it.
We adjourn at 6:36.
Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mr. Jaden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Environmental Health and Social Services, meeting today at Active Adult Center, June 8, 2020, at 6:36. All members present noted, other council members also noted, and visitors noted. Tonight, we have no request for legislation, and I'm opening this up for miscellaneous discussion. Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
Do you, have any, news on who the new director of the mosquito abatement might be?
No, ma'am. Does anybody have that information?
Oh, no, I was,
It's in the paper.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's on the paper. I
I
can't remember.
Yeah.
John,
didn't get an email. There's a name guy that were training. I don't think.
I don't know, it was just in the paper.
Yeah.
It was in the African Beacon, I think that.
Got it.
off that subject there, I was going to say with the social services there, I just want to say that I was proud that the protest that went on in Barberton was very peaceful and I didn't see any trouble. I don't know if you heard any during that, but I know there's one incident of a block thrown through a window of a local business down on Tusk, but it looked more like a random act of stupidity than anything to do with the protest. But I was pretty proud of Barberton for actually showing that we don't have to act like, what.
We had a good turnout. There was about 30 people there for the protests. And the next morning, next morning, I think it was Sunday night, Monday morning, we had some vandalism on the church on Worcester Road and vandalism also on Worcester Road State Farm building. And had both Paul, the owner of that business, and also the Cooper and his wife, and contacted Josh Windows and Power Washing. And they took care of the spray can right away. Besides that, everyone else I've heard or seen.
The protest was on Tuesday, wasn't it?
Yes, last week, yes, ma'am.
So those two had nothing to do.
No,
with
ma'am,
it.
nothing about this.
Thank you.
Do you have any idea when they will start spraying? for mosquitoes?
They said they'll be able to start spraying soon, but they haven't given dates yet. But, anybody's able to get it in the backyard, graduation parties, but there's still a limit of how many people can hold graduation parties right now. So,
I'm just curious because generally Lake Anna is pretty bug-free and it's particularly bad, so I'm guessing that they haven't sprayed it. I just wondered if you had any idea.
have you seen anybody go out of your house?
I haven't noticed it, but
I haven't either. They're usually on my street on Thursday evenings.
the bugs have been really, really bad.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty heavy rain.
Yeah.
Rain too.
Yeah.
I know the wind has to, pardon me, from past experience on that committee, I know the wind has to be below a certain rate, and so does the rain before they can start.
I was just curious because I noticed that the bugs have been, mosquitoes have been pretty bad.
Any other discussions? All motion adjourned.
I'll second that.
Griffin? On this meeting adjourned at 6:39.
Okay, next up is, planning, annexation, and codes, with Mrs. Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, annexation, and codes, tonight at June 8th, and welcome everybody. I felt like we hadn't been half of us hadn't been part of council, so I like this part of it. All of my members are present, along with guests as noted. We have no requests for legislation. We have no current legislation. Miscellaneous discussion, I do have some that I'm going to open that up with first, and then we'll go to the committee. Melissa McFadden sent out an email to all of council, and it explained everything with the COVID-19 Small Business Emergency Relief Grant Program Phase 2. This is there's 2 grant levels available, up to 10,000 for businesses with 2 to 25 employees, and up to 5,000 for businesses with a single employee. Their qualifications that they must have applied for an SBA loan related to the COVID-19 and been denied or unqualified for the funding. The program started today, June 8th. BCDC will be our administrator on that. And the applications will be on the BCDC website, the city's Facebook, planning's website, and as well as the Barberton Herald. So any of you that have businesses, that know businesses that maybe didn't qualify for phase 1, that they have that opportunity to qualify for phase 2. Melissa McFadden, you can call the planning department and she'll help you through that. The application needs to be filled out, and you can either, it's all online, you can do it that way, or you can call BCDC, Mr. Wagner, and he can help you through that. So we are going to do this for about 2 weeks to see what we get and how many responses and what we can do. We have $200,000 to use on this phase 2 for the small businesses. So let's get that word out. Anybody has Facebook, put it on. And see if we can get, use that money up for these small businesses that have really hurt through this COVID-19. The second I have was Mr. Jabber asked for me to check on 2 things with our new, I'm sorry, I can't stand this mask. With planning, our new planning director, which I did sit down and meet with him. One was Mr. Heidick was asking for a permanent patio with a fence at the Green Diamond. And he has already emailed Stacy and has been in contact with Stacy through the planning department. The second request that Mr. Jabber asked me to check on was Elves Market, that Mr. Gray would like to buy the parking lot in the back of the building. It's a city parking lot, and that, I guess 5 years ago, he had asked, and whatever happened 5 years ago, apparently it didn't go through. So when I sat down, asked Mr. Hunt, it's your office, how do I relay these questions to, from council people? And he, would like everything in writing directly to his office. And that way, he has something in writing, he can do research on that. And he prefers that coming from the owner of the building or the establishment, and then that way, it's his information that he gives out. So you're not going to second or third party, it goes directly through planning. He will address each request. And, I see that he's here, and I'd like to introduce, Mr. Trevor Hunt to, City Council, and, welcome him with a big Magic's welcome as our new planning director.
Thank you all. I'm attending it. This is my second week of work with the city, so I'm just getting into the middle of everything, but there's a lot to get to. I've been being educated by the staff, both Stacy and Melissa, and I've met with the mayor a couple times as well. So there's a lot to look forward to in this great city, and I look forward to working with you all. And if you have other questions, let me know. Happy to share anything with you that I'm aware of. So, thank you.
Thank you, you're welcome. Do I have any miscellaneous discussion from the committee? Mr. Greer?
Thanks, Sharon. You said contact the office directly. Is it directly email or?
Yes,
just a general?
he would like it in writing. Is that correct, Mr. Greer?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah,
Awesome, thank
he's a stickler with putting everything in writing, and that way he has it. Anybody else have any miscellaneous discussions or any questions? Mr. Heide?
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to give the council a little update. This past Thursday morning, I did meet with Mayor Judge in his office, and we were going over any amendments to the proposed CIC, which he will be reintroducing. If anybody has input, please send it to him, get everything in there. We had a very lengthy discussion about it. A lot of good changes came in it that personally that I voted against because we're excluded from it, that are now being worked into it there. The only reason I say make sure you send input is because dealing with articles of incorporation, anytime he changes something in there, it has to go through, I'm gonna mess his name up because I never say it right. Is it Irv?
Sugarman, yeah,
Yes, it has to go to him to make sure it can
yes.
be where it's at and be how it's set. So if you do have any concerns about the resubmission, send him something so he can get a hold of you and get to Irv. I don't know why I always call him Bert, but Irv, how the changes have to be applied to it.
Yes, and I appreciate that because I've been working with the mayor, making on some changes too. So I think this will be, if anybody has any ideas, any change, anything of that, send it over to the mayor so we know what's going on and we can take it from there. So I appreciate that, Mr. Heide. Anybody else have anything for planning? For Mr. Hunt?
Mr. Hunt, welcome to Barberton. Is your emails up and running yet? Oh, yeah, it is up and running. Thank you very much, sir.
And I do like the purple tie.
Yes.
Good honor.
Any other questions from anybody? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Mrs. Colburn, second.
And I'll second it.
Just Mr. Greer, and we are adjourned at 7:44. Thank you.
6.
6, I'm sorry, we're right, it is 6. I have a regular wind up lot.
Next up is city utilities and Mrs. Coker.
Okay, this is Monday, June 8th, 2020. We're in the active adult center. It's city utilities. All members are present along with others as noted. We have no request for legislation tonight. We do have current legislation, ordinance number 59/2020, which is the enter into contract with Burgess and Michael for the Taylor Road water line. It's the engineering consultant. It's for the engineering design. We'll be voting on that tonight. And this is very important that we do vote on this tonight so that we're ready to get underway with this when the funds come available, or if we need to apply for the loans. We also have two appointments for the Utilities Committee. Did everyone on the committee receive the information on these people tonight? Did you, Mr. Greer? Did you get the information on them? They are immediately through December 31st, 2020. Is there any questions about them from anyone?
I have a question, it might just be a typo, it says Richard Waltz, it's immediately through December 31st, 2020, is he just finished?
Different dates, it should be different dates. One through 20, one through 21.
Okay.
So
I have Ron Klein through 2022.
22, they are different dates, that I know. And
So-
one is-
one is only gonna go to the end of this year?
Yeah, somebody passed away.
Okay,
I think it's in his letter to you guys.
Yes, it is.
Somebody did pass away, so they have to bill it before the end of the year.
okay. That's. We will vote on these independently, correct? Okay. Do I have a motion to call for Ron Klein?
I'm second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And, so that was Carol Fry motion for that, and Carla DeBevick seconded and passed unanimously. We have Richard Waltz filling a seat that was vacated due to someone passing away.
Keith Jones.
Keith Jones.
Yeah, and I did read that earlier. Resume.
Do I have a motion to call for his appointment?
I'll make a motion.
A motion made by Carol Fry and seconded by Carla DeBevick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that also passes. Do we have any other miscellaneous discussion for utilities? Mr. Greer.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question. I asked this before, and this is more for Mr. Weaver. On the ordinance number 59/2020, the design contract for Taylor Road, that project didn't include surveying because we were pretty well aware of where the surveying was. And when I say surveying, I mean the property right away surveying. Does this project go down the middle of the road, or is it on the side of the road? Like, is it clearly in our right of way?
Yes, it will be in our right of way, and there are GIS coordinates for, utilities that are currently in place. So that helps us with it. If there's some things that come up that are in question, then there will be some survey work to cover that. But it shouldn't be necessary, and that's why it wasn't part of this contract.
Great, awesome, thank you. Thank you for clearing that up.
Mr. Height?
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is more for Mr. Weaver there. On page 6 of the contract there, the $49,800 for design bidding services, the two following items, 21,600, 85,000, 43,500, is that part of this project as well? That we're signing off
They
on?
also quoted for services during construction, and we're not awarding that at this point. I'm not requesting that at this point. What we're asking approval for is design and bidding services. So they would take care of things such as if there were questions come up during the bidding process, they would add addenda to it so that to clarify for all bidders. They also review the bids, make recommendations, and then we would also interview the bidders. That would be, I would also be part of that, but they'd be involved in that process as well. So, but during construction at this point, we've not asked council for that approval.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
I know.
I didn't see your hand.
And an awkward
Yes, Ms.
space.
Devitt.
So page 7 of that contract that Mr. Pettit alluded to, I didn't see it, it seemed to me when I looked over the contract that it listed all of the items that were there, and it didn't specify that we were just signing a contract for engineering services. Am I missing something, or is it
On this.
on page 7? Yes.
Yeah, well, certainly, we're not gonna commit to anything that's not approved by council. That they have signed it, we have not. And we will, if you notice, there's boxes, I think that they're on the selection. What we would,
None of them were checked.
That's where my concern came, that nothing was checked there, that passing this would put us on the hook for the rest, no matter what.
I got
Well, shouldn't this be checked before we vote,
you.
Mrs. Miller?
Are there portions of the contract that have not been agreed to?
Yes.
I'm not asking for every portion that they have quoted to us. I'm asking for, it adds up to 48,900. That is the design, and that is also for the bidding services. That's what we're asking for.
Okay, so does the total amount that has been presented to council exceed 48,000?
Oh, okay. But there are boxes, and so when I read the contract and saw page 7, it seemed to me as if with nothing checked, what we agreed to.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so, okay, if you turn to page 6 of the contract that was presented to council, so just for your information, it is somewhat normal for anyone who contracts with the city to submit a contract with their part signed, because they believe they're entering into the contract, right? However, we, the city, should have submitted to council what we should check that box. So if that's what we're doing, is this all we're doing with them
We're doing design and bidding services.
for 40,300?
It's for
It's the
49,000.
second one.
This one,
Or only this one?
just this one.
Okay, so I would say when you make the motion, Mrs. Dubavik, just say that you approve, you make a motion to approve. I'm sorry, I didn't know who, I'm sorry. So Joyce, when you do that, Ms. Coburn, just say that on page 6, it would be extended project, entire length of Taylor Road, the first box, design and bidding services, 49,800. So that must have been what Mr. Weaver intended, but he forgot to just check the box when he submitted the draft of the contract. But that would be, having them sign it when they submit is kind of normal. Just otherwise, we have to prove it, then we have to send it back to them, so.
That was my fear with no boxes checked,
Okay.
that we were basically writing
So-
a blank check.
Yeah, we're gonna do the first one, 49K. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Weaver, can you tell me one more time, just because I didn't write it down, I looked through my notes from last time. Is there a deadline for this, for funding? I thought you mentioned something about that.
Well, the deadlines for OPWC are a bit unknown right now. They've been extended due to the, with COVID-19 issues. It's normally right at the beginning of July, but it will be extended by at least a couple of months. And that gives us the opportunity to get this into this next round. And that's important for us to do, to get that in. And hopefully there'll be some additional funding there to be able to get a good grant on this. Yes.
One more.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If I remember correctly, you say something about, last time about the CARES Act might have something, or?
There's possibility, it's not clear yet, just what'll be involved. But, yes, there's, even some possibility for design, some, on that, but we need to, move ahead now. That isn't gonna happen until later. I'd rather get it designed at a smaller cost, get us in line for the larger chunk where we actually do construction. So, that's what we're looking forward to, is, getting some help with that construction dollars. That would be a big help for us.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Weaver, one more. Eastern Road from Van Buren up to city limits, Van Buren going east.
Yes.
On Eastern. That was flooded a couple weeks ago or so. And I seen did we do the culvert work there on one side? Did we do something down there?
I'm normally not involved in the stormwater
Oh.
on that, so, I'm not familiar with the history of that. Sorry about
Yes, ma'am.
Denny, if we get the engineering underway and we get this project going, when do you think that, it would actually?
What would happen?
Yes.
We get on the next round, it would be available hopefully in July of next year, then you could get under, so we would likely bid beforehand. We know if in the fall, if you have in by July, in the fall whether you are funded, and then you can bid it, usually like May, June. You get ready with the contracts, the money becomes available in July, and then you can start construction by the fall. That would be a typical schedule. And right now, it's a little bit up in the air, so I'm not sure if it'll play out that way next year, or it'll be good for them.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. The OPWC is, I know that we only have to pay a certain portion. Do you have any idea what portion, or does it depend on the project? How's that determined? So I know some of them
well,
we pay
we-
20%.
What we do is you kind of self-grade going in. There's a process where you go through and there's different questions and you can self-grade them. And one of them is with, if you have a partnership with another community. On this line, we would, because it extends into the city of Norton. Even though we own the whole line, we could get, Norton has showed some interest in participating. So when you get those extra points, you can ask for more money, because it puts you on higher, in your grading with other communities. So we would ask for more money. And it's not an exact science. We did this with Norton Acres, we talked about before. We got 68% on that one. And that was kind of weighing what they did the previous year, how much funds are available, what the competition is. So we had made some pretty good progress when we first did Norton Acres. So when we applied for Brentwood and Fraser Park, we actually applied for 90%. So we had 90% money on that. So with this one, we can see something similar. And that's really what makes me excited, when we can get 70 to 90% funding on a project. Those are dollars that we don't have to spend from our water or sewer funds. And it's helps a lot.
Thank you.
When I first came on to city council 5 years ago, Mr. Weaver had gotten contracts by being shovel-ready that Akron sewer system wanted really badly and could not get because they weren't shovel-ready. And I know it sounds like this investment might not be the best thing, but when you see the condition of Akron's sewer system and how big a mess they've made, and they lost out on what we got. That's just amazing to me to be $49,000 sounds like it
Well, I
might.
don't think for me, I don't think it's a huge investment, and I just think that, I just don't want to go, I wanted to go 3 meetings, they've extended the deadline. I just think,
But we don't have a guarantee, that's the problem, that we don't, yes, they have, but everything's changing on a daily basis, and you never know when they're gonna come back and say, we need those turned in. Just like I thought I had another 3 months, and I've got 45 days that they are gonna give me the purchase price of my house, so, it's been 3 years, and now I got 45 days, so it's like things change, so fast.
ordinarily, it would be due the 1st of July, you said, and then,
Yeah,
You know, 5th, 6th is usually where it comes in. And, we do have a bit of a reprieve, but hopefully we would be ready if it came up in August, September, and that's very possible. So it'd be good to get them going as soon as possible, just to make sure we get live with funds. If we don't, you're looking at possibly another year wait. When we counted the cutoffs on that street, they were significant. And,
yes, I know that.
and
It's that.
the reason we started looking at this now is because they're looking at paving that street, because it's pretty bad. So you don't want to pave over a water line that's breaking. And, if there's, if they're getting any feedback on this, have you got anything with the public?
No, I would say the only feedback that I'm getting as far as utilities go is, a lot of feedback about the elevated water bill. And there are factors, I don't know, I probably our trash went back up to where.
Yeah, the $3.
And then the lighting is on it, and, they're just, I'm getting some feedback from residents about the utility bill. So I just want to be able to explain to them when I just want to feel comfortable explaining to them how we're spending money and why we're spending it. And, I've gotten a lot of feedback about the water, so.
And one thing I just, like to bring up about water bills, we did a comparison, across the state. And Highway EPA does a rate comparison every year, and we participate in that, make sure we get our rates in, so we can, be part of that whole process. Our water bills, we fall right around that 58%. Okay, we're pretty much right smack in the middle. So you got a 50% that are paying more, and, pretty much the same others. On sewer, we're lower than that. We're right around that, 33, 34, right in there. So we're pretty low on the sewer compared to the rest of the state. So we're pretty good on water and sewer rates. And, we want to stay competitive, because that helps us draw business in town. And it is an attraction for the city of Barberton to have good utility rates. So something we're actually very aware of, and something we watch pretty closely. And one reason why I really love to go after actually dollars is that
Thank you.
Mrs. Fry?
I was just going to say that, your water bill currently went up $6 because the 3 would be offset with the trash being less. So now it's equal. Your trash,
I didn't say $6.
no, you said the 3, you lost the 3 for the
Well,
trash and the.
so it went up $3.
Right.
Right, right. But our water increased as well.
Water and sewer went up 5%, and you were looking at, it was less than $3 on the typical bill. And, of course, if you use more,
Right.
you use more than 5,000 gallons a month, most people don't. But I calculated an average bill right around 5. Actually, most people use less than that, but just to kind of be fair on comparison to most. And it was a little over $2.
Right.
Something on a typical bill for water and sewer.
Right.
So that didn't include, there was I think 30 cents or something went up on trash. Trash went up a little bit. then you did have that offset that went back on this year due to lighting utility. And so that's the one that.
Right,
that
so there's
people
some
don't-
confusion about that it's
Yes.
utilities in general, but
And,
I tried to explain that, you know.
our customer service, personnel have been really good at explaining that. And, so, and we did get a number of calls on that, but they didn't do a real nice job.
I received a number of calls.
Yeah.
That's, so that's the only time.
And we, most of them seem to be related to the lighting utility and the discount going on.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
Mr. Graham.
I'm sorry, this is a long committee. I just had one other question. Could you clarify the fund that this would be coming out of?
the fund, it'll come from the water, operating fund.
And
Let me clarify, water capital fund. Capital fund, sorry.
I just have a quick one, be easy to answer. I had a
Mr. Hyatt.
I had a wish department head would handle it, but it involves trash. I'm getting complaints from people on Sterling off of Second Street that during trash day, BWXT employees have been using the street instead of the big parking lot, and it's making it a real pain for Kimball to pick up. I don't know who I could talk to about parking there.
Tracy.
I emailed Tracy about that.
Okay.
Sterling Avenue?
Yeah.
Yes, I emailed, Tracy and also, Tracy also, fill in for Pine Avenue, so. And not to interrupt you, I also had go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Back to Kimball, I've had at least 10 to 11 emails or calls in the last 2 weeks about Kimball. I don't know what's going on, if you guys have, anybody else have any emails or calls about Kimball's trash service? It's-
I have.
In the beginning of the year, it's been perfect, I was getting more calls about potholes and stuff like that, but now it's just more about Kimball trash, and not picking up or picking up across the street. Maybe we can, until it's, give Kimball a call, and go from there.
Some more of the trash on the street than then they dump it and it's
Yeah.
laying.
So that's number one call I've been getting from last week, so, let's go from that.
Well, and I was gonna say, I think it's maybe something to reach out to Mr. Tracy about, but a few people that have contacted me about their trash being missed, when they call Kimball, they say, well, we have a picture on our iPad of we picked up your trash. And we're like, no, we didn't, and we put it out the night before, and they personally sent me pictures of it out the night before, and they truly did not pick it up. So, I don't know if they're having a customer service issue as well, or just what the deal is, but.
Chief?
We go on those calls sometimes, and part of the issue is we will check if that car is legally parked there and it's allowed to be there. Nothing we can do. Everybody generally has a driveway, not always downtown, but, downtown, there's ultimate spots where people figure out where to put their trash. There's no driveway. So we were out on 26th Street today, same thing. Tenant thinks that they have this divine right to put on the curb, the neighbor does that over in park, they park there, maybe they're off today or vacation. So they're legally parked, and, the officer told the neighbor, dude, put your driveway, well, then I'll have to move mine, We said, well, then that's what you might have to do, we're sorry, but, when we live in denser neighborhoods, sometimes we're having. That might be a thing with BWXT, management, see if they can do something, make it a, no parking zone or something, I don't know, but then that's gonna cut it in for the residents as well, when they're not there.
So for example, if they're parked on the street legally, they're allowed to park there. So they have to find another spot to put their trash can in. And that might be their driveway, so they might have to move the trash can, pull out of the driveway, move the trash can back into the driveway and go to work. And then move the trash can back. And that's not ideal, right? No one wants to do that, but we can't prohibit people from parking legally on the street. So if we made it no parking on a street, like the street that, not on 26th Street, but if we made it no parking on that street, then the residents of that street wouldn't be able to park on that street either.
Right.
So
I would say dilemma picks up, if someone's parked where we put our trash, I don't have any complaints, they get out and.
No, it's not Kimball that's complaining. It's the residents that are complaining. They're complaining that their neighbors are parking. So here's the car, here's where they would like to put their
Oh,
trash in the
I
curb.
see, gotcha.
They don't wanna put it in their driveway because they don't wanna have to move their car up, put the trash in the driveway, and then pull in, move the trash can, pull in, right?
And I guess while we're at it, street sweeping is starting.
Right.
It has been going on already. We have been giving out warning notices for the last, we'll do it for about two and a half weeks, 3 cycles. So, you know, it's the law 24/7 to not park on the street during that time. I mean, that's what we do, you know, so we're putting out the courtesy notices and then we'll be taking them. I know downtown in particular, we get told, where am I supposed to park? So we do let them park on the tree lawn, you know, just try to get it off by, 9, 10 o'clock. You know, we're not gonna give a ticket for that. We try to recognize that, but somebody might actually have to park somewhere else and walk through their house, the road's jammed up, sorry. That's just, So, and we do it from the whole season, because sometimes the sweeper may be down, the guy might be off. We don't know, we're not, the street department isn't always calling us saying, hey, I'm not in tonight, or you call it off sick, so we don't do it for that night. We're consistent the whole season. It runs generally through November.
Isn't it March, from March?
Well, it's March, but we
Yeah.
haven't been out in March, we do it all the spring and everything.
Right.
When street tells us they start, then we start, so that's
Okay.
where,
Thank you.
so,
How many tickets were given last year, you know?
I have no idea. That, the clerk of courts would know for that violation.
Okay.
I said you all the information. I don't know.
Do people usually pay it, or is there like a?
Yeah. And then, but there are people who, don't want to, so then if there's 3 or more unpaid tickets, then you're on the top, you're on the tow list. And your car's eminently towable per ordinance. And then every now and then we'll find one that's like 6, 7, 8, so. The officer, it's like, man, I gave you all these warning tickets, I gave you a ticket, I said, please move, So sometimes we'll tow those.
Thank you.
Or, we get complaints.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Well, since we're on trash cans and stuff, we need to send people out a notice with their water bills, when to put the trash can out and when to take it back in.
There's an ordinance.
I know
It's an
there is.
ordinance.
Well, it was in that.
Send them a reminder in their bill or
In
something.
Well, people don't read those, and actually, that was on the 10 codes, I believe, wasn't it? The 10 things you should know that are codes.
Right, well, how are we gonna enforce it? How are we gonna enforce it? I mean,
So actually, I have walked over to people with the 10 codes and said, see, you're not allowed to do this. So, I have not gone doors.
Yeah.
What's the ordinance?
It's not a criminal code.
No, I mean.
No.
Just want to let you know. It's a building.
We won't call you to do it.
Oh, you
We'll just go over with ourselves.
I'm gonna adjourn this meeting because we can talk about trash all night.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Carol Fry. Do I have a second?
Oh, sure.
Carla?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 7:18. Thank you, great meeting. Oh, turn it off.
Are you up here?
Okay. Finance personnel, Mrs. Fry.
All right, it is, June 8th, 2020. We are at the Active Adult Center and we're all in person. All the committee members are here for Finance Committee as well as all of council and guests as noted. We have a couple of requests for legislation for tonight. The first one is a draft ordinance authorizing payment to Kavanaugh Builders. And this is to authorize the finance director to pay an invoice to Lexapol in the amount of $8,922. This request was received from Chief Morber, and it is, do you want to explain what Lexapol is?
Sure, it's a program that we use, we've used it for years now. It assists us with our policies and daily training bulletins that drive off those policies. So it keeps up to date with case law, statutory items, best practices. So the bill, we've done it every year, the bill came in March, and it expired, the thing expired in May. It's one of those times where we were caught between budgeting cycles and appropriation cycles. So once the money was appropriated at the end of March, we did this request, and finance, Mr. Flaker said, no, we can't do that because the invoice is dated before, the purchase order, but the purchase order couldn't be done until, the money was fully appropriated. So that's why we're here.
Right, and since it's over $3,000, it would come to us to vote on. So, do I have, any questions about this? First of all, I think Vince pretty much said everything there is to say. And if not, do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make a motion.
Made by Mrs. Levitt. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Seconded by Mrs. Angela. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The next piece of legislation for this evening is a draft ordinance titled Enter into Contract Insurance Coverage, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a professional services contract with Whiteford Insurance Company, constituting a one-year extension of the current contract due to expire on June the 29th. This is a renewal that we do each year, and in the letter requesting this ordinance, Mr. Flaker informed us, or informed me, that he does not have the figures for that yet, and as soon as he gets them, he'll provide them.
It's up there.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I just spoke with Wicker Insurance today. They're hoping to have the figures to me by the end of this week. This year has been a very difficult insurance renewal for the city. Once again, it's the dam that's causing the issues. Due to the current pandemic that's going on, insurance companies are taking less risks going on. So what we have going on is the dam that we have is a class 1 dam. Basically, a class 1 dam is any dam where if it would fail, there could be human life loss. So if you had an outhouse down from a dam and that dam gives way, it's still classified as a class 1 dam. So our dam is a class 1 dam. As you all know, it's several years old. So they're just not wanting to take risks. So in years past, it was always covered under our 10 million umbrella insurance plan. They're not willing to do it this year. So they've been trying to research other options to try to get as much coverage on that dam as possible. The latest I heard was $1 million they're willing to go on coverage. I don't know if that will change once they get me more information. I know they've been working nonstop though at trying to come up with an idea to still give us that roughly 10 million, but I'm not sure if it's going to be possible because just how the dam is, the insurance companies want to start seeing work done to insurance safety a little more. So it's not an imminent failure or anything like that. We have records from EPA and from Ferguson Michael, that says it's not in imminent danger or failing, but the insurance company just, during this pandemic, they have stopped taking risks whatsoever. Like I said, I hope to have some information to council, hopefully by the end of this week, when I was talking to you today.
I'm sorry, we should probably have it in time for when we're gonna.
Yeah.
No, it has to be.
Yeah,
We have to have it.
yeah, I have to have it before then, so.
Is this the only insurance company, or I know we've used them for a long time, and they've given us really good rates, but given the different circumstances with the dam, and kind of explore other options, or?
Carla. It's, Wicker's only the agency. It has nothing to do with who's writing the policy.
Okay,
So nationally, if you read about it, there was the dam that failed, the huge dams that failed in Michigan. So that just alerted the entire industry that dams are high risk. So then no one wants to write the insurance. So before, the dam was included in our P&C property and casualty insurance. So now insurance companies, because of the large failure in Michigan, are now carving it out. They're gonna say, no, we're gonna carve that out of every municipality's P&C insurance. So what Wicker's trying to do is place dam coverage in more of an umbrella coverage with another insurer. So right now, our P&C and auto and all of that is typically with Travelers right now. Travelers is carving out the dam. So Wicker, as an agency, is going out and trying to solicit other insurers to see if they can find a carve-out umbrella coverage just for the dam. So that's kind of where we're at. But it's really the issue in Michigan that caused all that thing throughout the industry for communities that have dams.
I guess what concerned me with what you said was that we would potentially only have $1 million coverage on the dam.
That's unacceptable.
Okay.
So the only thing that would make it acceptable is if no other insurer. Now, when they were talking to me about soliciting other insurers, I mean, they're literally going to all the other things. There's a method to this. You put this out and you allow other insurers to bid on that coverage, right? I mean, I guess there's a possibility that insurers just aren't going to insure them now. And so you go to an umbrella coverage and you see what you can get. I mean, $1 million would be absolutely unacceptable, but if $1 million's all you can get, I guess you better get $1 million.
That was just an alarming statement that you made.
Yeah, and that's, like Lisa was saying, and that's what Wicker's having issues, problems with, is, when they were putting it out for bid, no one wants to touch the dam this year. So that's the biggest problem we're having.
So, let me ask you this, and this might go to Mr. Weaver, I know, kind of off the topic or on the topic. If we did improvements to the dam, would we have better luck insuring it? Do you think that it's primarily because our dam's old, or do you think that it's because they just aren't insuring dams?
Well, not insuring dams is a big part of it, but our dam was built in the 1920s, so it is old. We have been doing evaluation for improvements. If we were to replace the dam, it would cost us right around $20 million. It would be significant, a big hit for the fund and to our water rates. There are other approaches to it. We have a hollow core dam called an Anderson dam. And you can fill in the hollow core and do improvements to the base of the dam. That would be right around $10 million. And Burgess and I was currently working on a study to make recommendations to us for improvements. So once we have those in place, then we can start to look at design, funding, some things like that. And I've actually contacted 3 different firms and asked them to watch out for any funding that could pop up, especially due to the failures in Michigan. So I believe it's possible that since that has occurred, that Washington may release some money in that direction to take care of some of these older dams. So, I want to be ready for that as well. So, we're working on that and actually actively keeping our eyes and ears open for any possible.
Thank you. That's just a really useful.
But it would help, yes.
Any other time? Hearing none, do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation? I'll make a motion to call for this. Motion made by Mrs. Angela, second. I'll second. Second by Mrs. Webb. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, then we have current legislation on the agenda for this evening. First is ordinance 64, 2020, and it's an appropriation for the fire department in the amount of $1,000, and that is in relation to mower, correct?
No, that
No,
was
no,
actually
it's
a
different.
donation
Okay, it was
from
for supplies.
GBU Financial Life to be used toward fire rescue and EMS supplies.
Okay, yes, I see it now. Okay, thank you. All right, that's the first one we have on the agenda. The second is the COVID-19 CARES Act, and that was for the city to receive their portion of the CARES Act. It's the piece of legislation regarding that. And then the third piece is ordinance number 65, 2020, appropriation city council. It was for the technology, and that amount has been increased to $15,000 per mayor judge. And the way that breaks down is $10,000 of this money is from the foundation grant, and the other $5,000 at this point will come out of the general fund, which will inevitably be reimbursed by Christian Healthcare Services. So those are the ones that we'll be voting on this evening. Then we have an appointment to the Regional Council of Government for RITA, our new tax company. And this is going to be for the finance director with the mayor as an alternate. And that is to sit on that board. And Jeremy will be the one that goes to those meetings. However, if you can.
Attention all Laguna YMCA members, the gas time is now 7:30 and the YMCA will be closing in 30 minutes and the pool will be closing in 15 minutes.
And this would be effective immediately. Does anybody have any questions?
I'll make a motion that we appoint, Mr. Bowler.
I will second that motion. Motion made by Mrs. Levitt, seconded by Mrs. Angela. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we have the finance report for the month of May. Ready for that, Jeremy?
Starting with the health insurance fund, the revenues for the month of May were about $402,000. Expenditures were $340,000. The unexpended fund balance is about $794,000. The year-to-date revenue is $1.6 million. Expenditures about $1.5 million. Our net year-to-date is a positive $135,219. Moving on to the income tax analysis, the estimate for the month of May was $1,371,000. Our actual came in at $627,000. That $627,000 was an advancement from CCA. CCA just became fully staffed again last week. They brought back all the workers. So they're still operating 2 days a week on the phones. Hopefully that, since they have their full workforce back, I'm hoping that I'm going to start getting the actual information, because I still have only estimates from the month of March, estimates for the month of April, and I do know for the month of May that we would receive in June. We received an advancement for that month as well. So basically 3 months of estimates. I've been asking them, when can I get actual information? And basically it comes down to them having the lack of staff. So hopefully with them being full force again, I'm hoping that maybe starting this month, we can start getting some more actual information from them. Year-to-date receipt comparison, the estimate for the year is just a little under 5 million. Our actual is about 4.6 million. That means we're under our estimate of 407,000. Like I said, it's estimates, so there could be a possibility that once they get the actuals in and get them into their computer, that maybe we won't be under our estimate as far as 407,000. This month, we did transfer $600,000 to the general fund. And then moving on to the statement of cash receipts and disbursements, we have a handful of funds in the negative. The first fund is the CDBG fund. As everyone knows, that's the HUD grant. So we'll get reimbursed once we do the expenses. The next fund in the negative is the Norton Sanitary Sewer Construction Fund, Fund 517. That is the fund that a lot of the Norton Sanitary Sewer construction projects that are going on, that's reimbursable by OWDA or NRC. We're just waiting reimbursement from those two agencies, and that will get out of the negative. The next fund is the health insurance fund. That's in the negative due to encumbrances for healthcare. I stated it last month, that negative balance will keep going closer to being a positive every month, each month that goes on. As an encumbrance comes down and we do the chargebacks to the various departments. The next fund in the negative is the internal cost allocation fund. That too is in the negative due to encumbrances outstanding from fuel. So once we do the chargeback, the monthly chargebacks every month to the various departments for fuel costs, that negative balance will go down. Comparing the last 3 months of activity, the unencumbered cash balance for the general fund went down by about 200,000. Special revenues went up by about 400,000. Enterprise funds went up by about 200,000. All other funds, the unencumbered cash balance went up by 400,000, making it now it is the negative 709,000. And as we go on throughout the year, you'll keep seeing that negative number get smaller and eventually go back to being a positive number again. It's just because of that outstanding encumbrance for the healthcare. Comparing May 2019 to May of 2020, the unencumbered cash balance for the general fund is up by about 600,000. Special revenues is up by about 800,000. Enterprise funds is down by about 400,000. All other funds it looks like it's down by about 2.7 million. That's truly not the case. It's just this year we decided to take a PO out for healthcare. If we didn't have that, it would be down by about 200,000 or so. And our unencumbered cash balance overall is down by about 1,700,000 if you compare it to last year. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Blakely. Does anyone have any questions for him?
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Winter. Do you have any idea what kind of impact we're going to feel from, I believe, NTEC? I think it was about 100 jobs moving into.
I would have to look to see roughly what their withholding tax was for last year. And then I could be able to figure for you.
I'll email.
Okay, yeah, just send me an email
Okay.
and I'll get that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion to call for the acceptance of the May 2020?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion made by Mrs. Angela,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mrs. Levitt. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Does anyone have any miscellaneous use property to discuss. Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? I make motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mrs. Angela and seconded by Mrs. Levitt. And we are adjourned at 7:40.
Okay, we'll take a couple minute break and we'll go right into legislation.
But you're gonna say, so you're gonna say
Look at it.
Yeah, you see her looking like that?
I'll get the.
Not her.
It's nice to see everybody.
It was like winter time.
So it's March and then it's like 2 weeks off and then
There's no red on that. One of my original. And I don't think about that because I usually my face is always. I've never seen this. Oh, yeah. In each corner. Which just makes it worse because that's not how we make good work.
On my desk, yeah. Well, I didn't bring it, so I just brought it.
Are they? I haven't seen them, well, I've seen them walk, but I haven't got to walk them. Yes. Like that.
What are you talking about? What was that?
Yes, about the downtown. They just recently in Lakewood just passed the ordinance for rules for ordinance.
First day I had 1 hour to go. I was really impressed.
Look up Cleveland. Here's what this song I've seen is over the weekend. This was them.
I had it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I
This I have a while. Everyone's finding it.
I said, if you can't email much of that, Lakewood has this. Yes, we're outside. We're outside.
Oh.
So what did you find out now? What did you find out about?
I think that's some of it.
That one is, we resolved that one, where's?
It's on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah. What, you know, I talked to Brent. And asked the way that he wants it. That's the way that he needs it. So I had what I had. Just got her good camera. Go on today. I can't have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, one, I don't know if I was the wrong one, but like.
Because it's not. But it goes
Attention all Lake and YMCA members, time is now 7:45, the YMCA will be closing in 15 minutes.
I would say,
Oh, I'm not.
so I
I was waiting for.
yeah, when we. If you don't look too bad. that we would undertake.
Yeah, I
Then,
think we did it pretty.
I think they did it very well. I think it's wonderful.
I hope it really does get So I must be.
Yeah, he's having some kind of surgery.
When I was so large.
Really?
Over the shade, exactly. He gave me some of his ears. Yeah. I saw it.
My son is 42.
Yeah. well,
Oh.
So I had,
Well, we're looking hard.
that's what I thought.
Greg, I'm gonna go get my water.
My daughter's on the sixth.
So you're gonna have one sitting there.
What's up, Fred? What is it? So he gets home. Well, Monday he goes back. But in him, he was 3.5 days. And, he was, I got a color. No, I don't want to go under this. So we got things done in that house. I mean, he was going to send me breakfast time to 7. Everything is, you know, 8 Wednesday, redone and everything. That's a thing. Yeah. Well, my grandson said he's gonna buy one.
All right, there you go.
He just graduated from high school, so. He wants to buy it. Well, you know what?
Well, once we accept it. Right, there's nothing available. It's more.
That's a huge.
Well, they want either $135,000 for a doghouse. I'm serious, I've been up and down every street. We have to tell them how many, whether I want the tea cupboards, or the countertops, or the bathrooms, stuff, they gave me the paper to fill out, and told me what I wanted to take out of the house. Well, the only thing, I looked at it, and I'm going, yeah, maybe my 3 ceiling fans that are. The rest of it, no, I don't want it. I mean, we stopped, I got hardly porch, but when you kick them, I know they are, Terry and I just put them down 5 years ago. We might get it ourselves.
Hey, you know, Brad.
I'm making an office $40,000 for our house. Find someplace and get it.
COVID thing, you're gonna see more things in the park. Right now, there's so
There's
little
no
there.
stores. We gotta have a one corner for my husband. I'm 2 stories high.
Okay, we're gonna get started.
Yeah. I've been driving down the street in Barberton.
Okay, this is a regular legislative meeting of the Barberton City Council. Today is Monday, June 8th, 2020, at 7:55 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by yours truly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, we are here to make decisions for our community. May we use our best skills and judgment in keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us. And may we always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Amen. Okay, first up is the approval of the minutes of the regular legislative meeting. Mrs. Hyde.
Roll call.
Oh, okay, excuse me. Roll call.
Roll call.
Mrs. Angela. Here. Mrs. Homer.
Here,
Mrs. Bennett. Here. Mrs. Fry.
Here.
Mr. Greer.
Present.
Mr. Griffin.
Here.
Mr. Heidick.
Here.
Mr. Jailer.
Here.
Now the approval of the minutes of regular legislative meeting. Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make a motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Tuesday, May 26th, 2020, as presented.
Thank you, and Mr. Hyde.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second the motion to approve the minutes of the legislative session.
Thank you. It was moved by Mrs. DeBevick and second by Mr. Hyde to approve the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Tuesday, May 26, 2020, as presented. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are adopted. Acceptance of the finance report. Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the acceptance of the Finance Department report for the month of May 2020 as presented.
Thank you, and Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mrs. Fry's motion on acceptance.
Thank you. It was moved by Mrs. Fry, second by Mrs. DeBevick to approve the Finance Department's report for the month of May 2020 as presented. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Finance report is accepted. Petitions and claims.
There are none.
Matters requested.
They've been passed out.
Citizens addressing council.
I received none.
Okay. First reading of ordinances and resolutions.
Ordinance number 59, 2020, presented by Mrs. Howard, titled Enter into Contract for Untitled Taylor Road. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into professional engineering services contract with Burgess and Nyepel for the Taylor Road Water Mains Replacement Project in the amount of $49,800 and declare an emergency.
Motion to
Sorry. Please note on page 6, under the extended project, box 4, design and bidding services for $49,800 should have been checked.
Everybody got that? Okay. Motion to suspend, Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
And Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second Mrs. Coburn's motion to suspend.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Coburn and second by Mrs. Fry to suspend the rules as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Jaber,
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick,
Yes.
Mrs. Frye,
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn,
Yes.
Mr. Heidick,
Yes.
Mr. Greer,
Yes.
Mrs. Angela,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Motion to adopt, Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 59, 2020.
Thank you. And Mrs. Frye.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second Mrs. Coburn's motion to adopt ordinance number 59, 2020.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Coburn and second by Mrs. Frye to adopt ordinance number 59, 2020. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Angela,
Yes.
Mr. Greer,
Yes.
Mr. Heidick,
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Frye,
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick,
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Ordinance number 60, 2020, presented by Mrs. DeBevick, titled Mower Trade-In. An ordinance authorizing the chief of fire to trade in a lawnmower to GSA equipment for the sum of $1,500 to be credited toward the purchase of a new mower and declared an emergency.
Motion to suspend, Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you, and Mr. Greer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion on suspension.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. DeBevick, second by Mr. Greer, to suspend the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Frye,
Yes.
Mr. Greer,
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn,
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick,
Yes.
Mrs. Angela,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Heidick,
Yes.
Mr. Jaber.
Yes.
Motion to adopt, Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 60, 2020.
Thank you, and Mr. Greer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion for adoption of ordinance number 60, 2020.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. DeBevick and second by Mr. Greer to adopt ordinance number 60, 2020. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Jaber,
Yes.
Mr. Heidick,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Angela,
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick,
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn,
Yes.
Mr. Greer,
Yes.
Mrs. Frye.
Yes.
Ordinance number 61, 2020, presented by Mrs. DeBevick, titled Enter into Contract, Tenable Protective Services, Inc. An ordinance authorizing the Watertown Municipal Court to enter into contract with Tenable Protective Services, Inc. for a period of 1 year to provide unarmed uniformed security officers and declare an emergency.
Motion to suspend, Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you, and Mr. Greer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion on suspension.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. DeBevick and second by Mr. Greer to suspend the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Heidick,
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn,
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick,
Yes.
Mr. Greer,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Jaber,
Yes.
Mrs. Frye,
Yes.
Mrs. Angela.
Yes.
Motion to adopt, Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 61, 2020.
Thank you, and Mr. Greer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion for adoption of ordinance number 61, 2020.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. DeBevick and second by Mr. Greer to adopt ordinance number 61, 2020. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mrs. Angela,
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick,
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn,
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Ordinance number 62, 2020, presented by Mrs. Frye, titled Appropriation Fire Department. An ordinance appropriating $1,000 from the unappropriated item of the general fund to the fire department operating budget to be used towards fire rescue and EMS funds.
Motion to suspend, Mrs. Frye.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you, and Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mrs. Fry's motion on suspension.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Fry and second by Mrs. DeBevick to suspend the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. DeBevick?
Yes.
Mr. Heidi?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry?
Yes.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
Yes.
Mr. Greer?
Yes.
Motion to adopt, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 62-2020.
And Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to second Mrs. Fry's motion on adoption.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Fry and second by Mrs. DeBevick to adopt ordinance number 62, 2020. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Greer?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Heidi?
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick?
Yes.
Ordinance number 63, 2020, presented by Mr. Heidi, titled Memorandum of Understanding. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the city of Barberton, Healthcare Ministries, Inc., and the city of Morton. This is the first reading only. Resolution number 64, 2020, presented by Mrs. Fry, titled COVID-19 CARES Act. A resolution requesting the city of Barberton to receive its share of funds from the county coronavirus relief distribution fund and declare an emergency.
Motion to suspend, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mrs. Fry's motion on suspension.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Fry and second by Mrs. DeBevick to suspend the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
Yes.
Mr. Greer?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry?
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick?
Yes.
Mr. Heidi?
Yes.
Motion to adopt, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of resolution number 64-2020.
Thank you, and Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mrs. Fry's motion on adoption.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Fry, second by Mrs. DeBevick to adopt resolution number 64, 2020. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Heidi?
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Greer?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
Yes.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Ordinance number 65, 2020, presented by Mrs. Fry, titled Appropriations, City Council. An ordinance appropriating $15,000 from the unappropriated item of the general fund to the city council operating budget to be used for the technology system and declare an emergency.
Motion to suspend, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you, and Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mrs. Fry's motion on suspension.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Fry and second by Mrs. DeBevick to suspend the rule as required by section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Angela?
Yes.
Mr. Heidi?
Yes.
Mr. Jaber?
Yes.
Mrs. Fry?
Yes.
Mr. Greer?
Yes.
Mrs. Coburn?
Yes.
Mrs. DeBevick?
Yes.
Motion to adopt, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 65-2020.
Thank you, and Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mrs. Fry's motion on adoption.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. Fry, second by Mrs. DeBevick to adopt ordinance number 65, 2020. Are there any remarks? Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to thank Mr. Heidi and our IT staff for this. I don't know if this is gonna pass. I'm assuming, I'm hoping it will, but this is a long time coming. And, I'm crazy excited about this. So, with that, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. Let's see. Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mrs. Devitt,
Yes.
Mrs. Colbert,
Yes.
Mr. Greer,
Yes.
Mrs. Frye,
Yes.
Mr. Jaber,
Yes.
Mr. Heidi,
Yes.
Mrs. Angela,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
and the first reading.
Second reading of ordinances and resolutions.
There are none.
Third reading of ordinances and resolutions.
There are none.
Appointments.
I have quite a few. I missed part of the parks, because I'm sitting in the flat. Did you take the lady off?
Yes.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure on that. Okay, the first one is Michael Tompkins. It's the Barberton Parks and Recreation Commission, effective immediately through December 31st, 2021.
Okay, approval of appointment, Mr. Hyde.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to approve the appointment of Michael Tompkins to the Barberton Parks and Recreation Commission immediately through December 31st, 2021.
Thank you, and Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. One second, guys.
Okay. It was moved by Mr. Hyde and second by Mr. Jaber to appoint Michael Tompkins to the Barberton Parks and Recreation Commission, effective immediately through December 31st, 2021. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Tompkins is appointed.
Okay, the next one's for the Regional Council of Government Archive. The delegate being the finance director and the alternate delegate being the mayor.
Approval of appointment, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for, acceptance of, Regis Regional Council of Government, RCOG, for the delegate to be the finance director and the alternate delegate to be our mayor, and this is effective immediately.
Thank you, and Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mrs. Fry's motion.
Thank you. It was moved by Mrs. Fry and second by Mrs. DeBevick to appoint the finance director as the delegate and the mayor as the alternate delegate to RETA, which is the Regional Council of Government, RCOG, effective immediately. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The finance director and the mayor are appointed.
Okay, the next one is Utilities Billing and Review Board. The first one is Mr. Richard Waltz, effective immediately through December 31st, 2020.
Are we doing these separate here?
Yes.
Okay. Approval of appointment, Mrs. Culver.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we accept the appointment of Richard Waltz, effective immediately through December 31st, 2020, to the Utilities Review Board.
And Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second Mrs. Coburn's motion.
Thank you. It was moved by Mrs. Coburn and second by Mrs. Fry to appoint Richard Waltz to the Utility Billing and Review Board, effective immediately through December 31st, 2020. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Waltz is appointed.
This is a different date.
Pardon?
I did it with different dates.
Okay.
The next one is Mr. Ron Klein to the Utilities Billing and Review Board, effective immediately through December 31st, 2022.
Okay. Approval of appointment, Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we accept the appointment of Ron Klein, effective immediately through December 31st, 2020, to the Utilities Review Board.
Thank you, and Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second Mrs. Coburn's motion, and it is effective immediately through December 31st, 2022.
Thank you. It was moved by Mrs. Coburn and second by Mrs. Fry to appoint Ron Klein to the Utilities Billing and Review Board, effective immediately through December 31st, 2022. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Klein is appointed. Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
I have nothing, but is everybody happy with the way this is tonight?
Yeah, this is
You want to
fine.
change?
This is great. Yeah, this is fine.
Good. The mayor's not here. Anything else from the good of the body? Mr. Drake.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say that I'm happy to see everybody come together again. Finally, it's nice to see everybody in good health and actually staring at everybody. It's a positive change from what we've been going through, so.
And let alone being able to hear everybody.
Yes.
That is a plus. Okay, anybody else? Okay, with nothing else, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Mrs. DeBevick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
And Mr. Hyde.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll second the motion to adjourn.
It was moved by Mrs. DeBevick and second by Mr. Hyde that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 8:15. 2 minutes.
You have to do reports.
Yeah, we have a committee of the whole.
Community of the whole.
We pretty much went over everything.
I know, that's why, yeah, that's why I wanted to go over actually.
I think we got it. We voted for it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah. You never know.
It'll be a bad day.
Well,
No problem.
things change.
Well, I'll tell you what, I did that half hour there.
They're so good.
I got so fat.
Everybody's picked up a few pounds.
And I still walk, I feel like it was walk.
Yeah,
Or I was more trounced.
I never watched it. We're for those.
I hear them.
It's not going.
I think that. I'm sorry, remember?
It's just. They asked us to, are you gonna take the kitchen out of the gas?
Yeah, so anyway, thanks.
And you like, so you just take this. I cannot. I sit here. It's a ethics violation.
I have a little picture of that.
I cannot apply for any of that. I can apply for a loan,
Yeah.
and if I get a loan, I can have to pay it back. But any of the rest of those grants, as
You haven't had any, like, everything about property? Okay.
Yeah.
10 to 4.
Did you say your temperature came in? I took mine, I thought it was radiating from my sunroom.
No.
What's the name of my?
We have to take every one.
I work for an organization. I'm utility.
Oh, okay.
Give you this one.
We know about it, so.
But I didn't.
We're appointed.
Yes, 95.
Okay, let's get it going here.
Let's do it.
Okay, today is Monday, June 8th, 2020. This is Barberton City Council Committee of the Whole meeting. I call this meeting to order at 8:22. Okay, committee report. First up is Mrs. Angeloff at Planning, Annexation, and Code.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Code met this evening here at the Adult Center at 6:40. All members were present, all council was present, and guests as noted on my sheet. Topics of discussion, we have no legislation requests, no current legislation. Miscellaneous discussion, I explained the COVID-19 Small Business Emergency Relief Fund Phase 2. And Mr. Gabbard had asked a couple questions about a couple of his businesses in his ward, and he was told to tell them to, in writing, submit their, what they want to do with their businesses directly to Mr. Hunt, our new planning director, who I introduced and everybody got to meet. And with that, I pass.
Thank you very much. Next up is street, sidewalks, and lighting. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. President. Street, sidewalk, and lighting met today, June 8th, 2020, at 6:25 PM here at Active Adult Center. All committee members are present, all council members were present, and guests noted. We had no request for legislation today. And miscellaneous topics, our discussion included the road striping that's going around town. I would like to amend my notes. I seen an email after the committee meeting from Mr. Tracy stating that it was a public bid process done by Summit County. And they're out, and he expects it to last 1 to 2 days. And he did provide a list of roads that I'll be forwarding to the rest of council, just so you guys are aware of what new roads were striped. The second item was the gas line project that's happening on Lincoln Avenue and Van Buren area. That is part of a larger project, so we can move forward with a sewer project that we have going on over there on the 5th Street, which will also lead into the 5th Street project resurfacing. There was a side note here. Mrs. DeBevick did ask how we were with staffing, and for at least the service department, we are at full staff as of now. Well, now, starting June 1. So our service department is back up to 100% staff. And there was no other discussions. We adjourned at 6:28, and with that, I pass.
Thank you very much. City utilities, Mrs. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. President. City utilities met this evening, June 8th, 2020, in the Active Adult Center. All members were present. We had no request for legislation. The current legislation, ordinance number 59/2020, was discussed prior to our voting on it tonight. We also had two people voted into the utilities billing and review board. Ron Klein was voted onto that board immediately through December 31st, 2022. And Richard Waltz was voted in immediately through December 31st, 2020. We had no miscellaneous discussion, and with that, I pass.
Thank you very much. Public welfare and safety, Mrs. DeBette.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public welfare and safety met this evening here in the Active Adult Center. And we had one new request for legislation. It was titled Disposal of Vehicles, authorizing the police chief to scrap or salvage 14 vehicles deemed to be no longer needed for any municipal purpose and unfit and unsafe for disposal in any other manner. We also passed a couple of pieces of legislation this evening. And we had some miscellaneous discussion regarding some speeding that we have been getting some feedback from residents. Mr. Griffin indicated he has received several calls about speeding on North Azalea, Lockwood, a rash of accidents at Walter and Robinson. Police chief did indicate that our speed trailer decoy, I guess, is awaiting some parts. So, but he is going to make a note and make sure that Officer White knows. So maybe we can get some extra patrol in it. And with that, public welfare and safety will pass.
Thank you. That speeding machine really works. It was on 2nd Street for the last 10 days, and I went by it every time. And if you go over 5 miles, that red light starts flashing. It puts the fear in you. So, but it does work, so. Okay, next up is Mr. Griffin and Rules, Marketing and Development.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules, marketing, and development for tonight, Unit 8, Active Adult Center. Tonight, we had no request for legislation. Miscellaneous discussion, we did discuss, Mr. Jaber wanted to know about alcohol beverages being allowed in designated areas outside, maybe patio enclosure. So I'm gonna email the planning director to do that and see what could come of that. With that, we made a motion to adjourn, and with that,
Thank you very much. Okay, Environmental Health and Social Services, Mr. Dave.
Thank you, Mr. President. Environmental Health and Social Services met today at 6:37, Active Adult Center, June 8, 2020. Members present, noted, other council members present, noted. We had no new request legislation. Miscellaneous discussions, was asked with mosquito spraying and Mr. Greer information. It starts June 11th through September 17th. And also, message Kimberly Trainery for the new person who's in charge. His name is Andrew Decken. Again, Andrew Decken, Decken. He's in charge of the skill deck. And with that, we adjourn to 6:39.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Mr. Heidick with City Properties, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties, Parks and Recreation led off tonight at 6 o'clock, June 8th, in the Active Adult Center. All members present, all council present, and guests noted. We had no new requests for legislation. Our current legislation had its first reading tonight, ordinance number 63, 2020, titled Memorandum of Understanding between Barberton Christian Healthcare Ministries Incorporated and Norton about regarding the cemetery on the old Portage lot. We did have an appointment, Mr. Michael Tompkins, effective immediately through the end of December 31st, 2021, to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Miscellaneous discussion talked about the field projects over at Foundation Fields, Fritz's Ditch, still working. Noted all the lunches, Brady bags, boxes, magic boxes given out in the city parks. We'll be having a senior parade outside the Active Adult Center Wednesday morning. And with opening of the parks, we're still waiting on state protocols on safety, distances, sanitation, and all that stuff. And with that, I pass.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance and Personnel Committee met tonight. The meeting started at approximately 7:25. All members of the committee were present, as well as all council people and guests as noted. The first request we had for legislation was a draft ordinance titled Authorized Payment to Kavanaugh Builders. And this was authorizing the finance director to pay an invoice to Lexipol in the amount of $8,922. Chief Morber explained what Lexipol actually is. It's a tool used by the police department, and he explained that the bill had come to us in March and had expired in May. And one of the reasons it was not paid was because of the COVID crisis and the availability of funds. But that was passed, so that will be paid, and it had to go through council because it was over $2,000. The second was the draft ordinance titled Enter into Contract Insurance Coverage, authorizing the mayor or his designated to enter into a professional services contract with Whiteford Insurance Company, constituting a one-year extension of the current contract due to expire on June 29, 2020. This is a renewal that we do each year. And Mr. Flaker does not have the figures yet. He should have them by the end of next week, and it definitely will be before we vote on this piece of legislation. Due to the pandemic, insurance companies are taking less risks, and we have a class 1 dam, and that is causing a problem. It used to be under our $10 million umbrella. However, they don't, insurance companies aren't going that high due to some of the dams in other states, bursting, and we might only get to have coverage of up to $1 million, but that remains to be seen when he gets back to us with the figures. We had current legislation on the agenda for the night, and it was voted on. It was an appropriation for the fire department, a resolution about the COVID-19 CARES Act and the distribution of those funds, and an ordinance for the appropriation for city council in the amount of $15,000 for our tech. And $10,000 was a grant from the foundation. The $5,000 will be taken out of the general fund and reimbursed with the healthcare ministry's match that they said that they would contribute for that project. We had one appointment, well, actually it was two, it's one appointment, but two people. It was for the RETA, Regional Council of Governance, RCOG. This is for RETA, the new tax service that we are going to be using starting January 1st. They have regular meetings of governance, and the finance director will be the person that is appointed to attend these committee meetings, and the mayor will be the alternate, and this is effective immediately. The finance report was given, and it was accepted for the month of May. Mr. Flaker explained that a lot of the figures on the report are only estimates. We have 3 months of estimates, and we might start getting actuals soon. He also explained that one of the funds that's in deficit is due to the fact that we took out a PO for the healthcare and paid for the year, and that should right itself. There was no miscellaneous discussion, and finance adjourned at 7:40. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you. Okay, that's the end of the reports. Do we have anything from the body here? Good to have everybody here, and this meeting is adjourned at 8:32.
No, leave everything there. I'll leave it. Okay.